So let me just sort of set the stage here of what's going on with Adam Schiff, right? He's a senator in California. He's one of the two, and of course he was a congressman before that, so he's been in Washington a long time. When folks go to Washington, they need a place to stay. So what does he do? He buys a house. He buys a house in Maryland. He refinances it a couple of times because the interest rate was over 5%. Nothing wrong with having a second house, nothing wrong with refinancing to get a better interest rate, but there is something wrong with claiming something is your primary residence when it in fact is not, because he also has a condo back in California, and that condo is, he's required to be a resident of the state of California to be, their senator. And also because he claimed that condo was his primary residence, he gets a financial benefit there. I think it was a savings of upwards of $7,000 in like a homestead tax exemption because that was his primary residence. But he tells the banks that the Maryland house is his primary residence. Why? Because you get better loan terms when you have a primary residence. Because if you have two places to live and you got two mortgages, let's say you fall on hard times or you get booted out of office and you lose your six-figure salary, the first mortgage that you aren't going to pay is going to be your second home. You're going to pay the mortgage on the house where you lay your head at night. And that's why this matters. It's against the law. It's a crime. Marilyn Mosby, who used to be the prosecutor in Baltimore, Freddie Gray, she was prosecuted by the Department of Justice and she was convicted. Other people are. It happens under all administrations. It's actually a fairly routine type of case. So I want to go ahead and bring our panel back in. Dave, Matt, you guys have been following this story. To me, I think this is an open and shut case of mortgage fraud. Dave, what do you think?
I'm not there yet, my friend. Now, if you're going to compare it to Marilyn Mosby's case, keep in mind Marilyn Mosby's conviction for mortgage fraud was overturned on appeal. There's a jury instruction issue, but it was overturned. Now, as far as Adam Schiff, because he has been such a critic of President Trump, and because it is President Trump's DOJ that has gone after him, if I were his defense lawyers, if he is charged, I would look into a claim of selective prosecution. So I would want to know how many other members of Congress who have two homes who have ever been prosecuted for this. Plus, are there people outside of Congress who have been prosecuted for this when it comes to homes that are used for business, meaning not second homes for vacation, not temporary part-time homes, but he actually had a home in Maryland because that's where he was, in fact, apparently most of the time. So is that different? Is that normally prosecuted if you're in a similar situation? If you can show me all that, then yes, if he is charged, that's bad for him. But because of the politics here, I do want more information as to whether they're just picking on a guy, whether this is normal in similar cases in other professions. And I would say this not just as a commentator, but especially as his defense lawyer, because they're going to dig into this.
Oh, are you his defense lawyer? No, you're not.
If I were.
Yeah. I know you're not. I was just teasing. Matt, what do you make of this? Because, I think some of Dave's points are kind of valid. But I do also believe that the Department of Justice under Republican administrations, under Democrat administrations, this is a common crime. This happens a lot, right? And so to maintain the integrity of the lending markets, the Department of Justice, when there's a federal nexus like there is when you got Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all that involved, they do take this seriously and they do prosecute people for it. So, Matt, is this selective prosecution?
Well, we don't really know yet. Of course, a lot of Democrats who support him would say that it's a witch hunt and it's retaliation for his criticism of President Trump. This strikes me very similar to the Letitia James case, who's the Attorney General of New York, who actually civilly prosecuted Donald Trump for loan fraud. So and of course, look, he hasn't been charged yet. So this is presumption of innocence plus, right? But one of the really interesting issues for me on this one, and I was going to kick this one back to the panel, Adam Schiff was famously censured by the House of Representatives for dishonesty, dishonesty and conduct unbecoming a member of the House for his involvement in what is now commonly referred to as the Russia hoax, the Russia collusion hoax. And he was the tip of the spear on that for the Democrats at the time. So there are a lot of political motivations to go after him. But my question to the panel, and I don't know the answer to this, when you're talking about moral turpitude, and if the case were to actually proceed to trial, is that something that would be admissible, like a conviction for petty theft for the audience, or any crime of moral turpitude where somebody's convicted, that's admissible to impeach their testimony or their credibility should they testify? Okay, so I don't know the answer to that. I think I've never encountered a witness that was censured by the House of Representatives for dishonesty.
This is a case of first impression on many fronts. Look, a spokesperson for Schiff has said the lenders who provided the mortgages for both homes were well aware of then Representative Schiff's congressional service and his intended year-round use of both homes, neither of which were vacation homes. Look, speaking of his credibility, I have no reason to doubt that that statement is correct. I mean, he's going to use both of these places, throughout the year at various times, maybe roughly equally or maybe a little bit not. But the statement doesn't really talk about him declaring one of them as his primary residence. We got some sound on this. Let's play SOT 5, which is Adam Schiff, where he's claiming California as his primary residence in 2024.
I think just about every member of Congress has a residence in their state and a residence back in D.C. since we're in session much of the week. And people make a family decision where they're going to have their kids. But our principal residence, our primary residence is in California. It always has been and always will be.
And so, we talk about what's admissible against people in court. Well, prior statements, out-of-court statements, or inconsistent statements are, if he said under oath on a mortgage application that Maryland was his primary residence, and he is stating that California is his primary residence, which I guess he's got to say, because if he says that he's no longer a resident of California, maybe he loses his seat out there. I don't know. But we know that statement, let's just say hypothetically he's prosecuted, Dave, we know that statements like that could surely be used against him, right?
Yeah, it's not hearsay because it's a statement by a party opponent. It's a statement by the defendant if he is charged. And also, Phil, thank you as the host for moving on from Matt's question, which stumped us all on the first episode. Matt, you got to clear those with us, man. That's a tough law school question, whether or not someone's censure could be used in a court of law against him while he's a defendant. The answer to the question, if he takes a stand, it could be used to impeach him. But as far as being used as evidence against him, if he doesn't, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows, and hopefully, maybe the viewers can pipe in.
I think it can. I think if you prosecute him and you got these documents, because that's the evidence, right? The documents that he signed that said, "Look, this is my primary residence, so give me the lower interest rate." The jury can see that, and I think you can authenticate that. That video, I think it's relevant. I think it's evidence in direct. It's directly on point.
Phil, I'm not talking about the video. The video is admissible. I agree with you on that. I'm talking about evidence of the censure.
I think the censure is not coming in. I would look, it's a great law school question, great academic question. It's a fun thing for us. I don't think the censure, though, the rules of evidence don't say anything about censures being admissible. It talks about convictions and things like that. I don't think that would rise to the level of something that would be admissible. It would be fun to see it, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Last thoughts, guys?
Yeah, well, I knew I was going to be with people way smarter than me today. I could not figure that out. I thought that was an interesting angle. And of course, that defense that you just mentioned, that where they're saying, hey, look, he was distinguishing that between a residence and a vacation home. And I don't know. Yeah, look, we've all seen videos of Adam Schiff saying nobody's above the law. We've seen about 1,000 of those during the Russian collusion investigation and all that. So he's presumed innocent. I think this has a long way to go, and I'm kind of with Dave on that one. I really need to hear more. And that's a completely apolitical opinion there. I really, as a lawyer, I want to hear more.